It's quite possible that we could have a really good bounce back and end up actually in a better place in 18 months than we are now. Let's hope. Welcome to the Aesthetics Mastery Show, last show of 2020. So we're looking forward to 2021. I'm Dr. Sim Pearce.
Hi, I'm Miranda Pearce.
And today we're doing our hopes and fears for the next year ahead.
So before we move on, let me just ask you one question about this year before we put it to the grave. What was your biggest learning point from 2020?
You can't be a dad and work at the same time.
Oh, really? Oh,
you have to just be a dad or just work.
Okay.
You can't try and do both, or it's like mental torment.
Wow, that's your biggest learning. Tell me more.
Well, it's a discipline that you get into when you get a little thud at the door. Dum, dum, dum.
Dad!
Yeah, and I don't want to be a dad who makes my kids, afraid when they see me. So I have to switch off. But if I try and work simultaneously, or I don't let go of it mentally, it's a form of stress that I find really uncomfortable. So I've disciplined myself to just switch, do one or the other, but let go of whatever you're not doing. Let go of the work when you're with your kids. Let go of your kids when you're with your work.
Love it. And just bouncing off that, one of my biggest lessons is a similar one, which is that we as business people need to let go of what we thought our business was in the past and evolve and pivot. I know pivot's been a big word of 2020, but...
Pivot!
I've been in so much admiration of all you guys doing online consultations and pivoting new extra treatments, new services, and not staying in that place of ego of like, this isn't for me, I'm a clinician. I actually think there's been a beautiful amount of innovation this year.
Yeah, and it's worth reflecting on that usually feels scary, and it's often something you've been meaning to do for a long time that you haven't done for various reasons that then you're forced into doing. And on the other side of it, it's not that difficult and not that hard, and everything's better. So there's several things we've done that have actually been better, but we were afraid of doing it for years, and the situation forces you into it. So it's well worth noticing that for other things you might want to change in 2021.
Practical examples like putting your patients on an online system or having online booking and, doing things through, like I said, online consultations. Those kinds of things make all the difference, streamline you. So let's dive in with a big elephant in the room. What do you think the economy is going to be like for aesthetic clinicians in 2021?
Well, my experience that we've now gone through 2 big recessions in our time running Skin Viva Limited. And my experience is that there is often like a period where the brakes go on, but it's psychological. Like people go, oh, can't afford that now. And then about 6 to 8 weeks later, they realize they still have the problem that they don't like in terms of their appearance. And your physical appearance is a human need to maintain yourself. It's very, very important. And I think people basically realign their priorities, and many of them will put their appearance ahead of other things. And that, I think, is a good universal instinct for self-maintenance. Like, I don't think that's vanity, which many people will. It's simply people maintaining themselves. You are the fundamental unit of your success. So maintain your appearance, go out there, find a better job, recover. So I'm not particularly worried even if we go into recession. I think medical aesthetics will be fine. The beauty industry as a whole will be fine, because that's how people weigh up their needs. But that's not to say that you shouldn't accommodate in various ways or make new adjustments if you need to, if we have a recession. I also think it's quite possible that we won't have a recession. I think this V-shaped recovery seems to be happening in most parts of the world. Now, we are taking several hits, and who knows what's around the corner, because we're kind of due a recession anyway. But it's quite possible that we could have a really good bounce back and end up actually in a better place in 18 months than we are now. Let's hope.
What about Brexit, though? Surely that's going to send us over the edge.
Yeah, it's more uncertainty. So absolutely it could. There could be some quirky kind of supply issues with various things as possible. But once again, I kind of like to put myself in the position of what are you going to do as a single business owner about Brexit? Nothing. Go out and market harder, communicate more to your patients, diversify, find new things that that your clientele want, serve their needs, and you'll be fine. You'll come out. Like it's even in the worst recessions, you're talking a 5% shrink in the whole economy. So if we have one as a result of Brexit, it's only 5%. It's not like 100%. You're going to have a business, and the people who go in on the front foot, trying to think of as many ideas as possible, listening to their clients, trying to do the best work they can, as they always have, they're going to come out with the business at the end of it, guaranteed. You don't have to worry about losing everything because of recession. You just need to be cleverer, work harder, be more creative.
So give us a tip for how we can boost our business in 2021.
Well, there's so many things, but attention is always number one. So you've got to do things that build attention and trust simultaneously. So that's how I think about marketing. Do something that proves your competence, but also you need someone to pay attention before you can prove your competence. So what I'm seeing much more of is very high standard of before and after photography in aesthetics. So this is probably the biggest shift I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. Is many pages you can tell they're really producing their results. Now, this is also gathers a lot of criticism because some people believe you shouldn't put any effort into before and after. It should be a completely scientific image. But we also have to deal with the reality, which is if you're in a competing marketplace, you need to present your work in as best light as possible. And you will see this. Once you see it, it's everywhere on many of the big accounts. It's about the production values of that photography. So how well lit is it? How good is the exposure? What is the model like? I mean, actually, selecting models that are younger and more beautiful will make a difference to how your page looks. Everyone puts this reflective stuff on lips to make them glisten in a bright light that's right near, and some people crop their photos so that the after result is slightly before. Now, the more processing, the more dubious it gets from a patient perspective, like what am I actually going to get? But there are ways of producing a well-marketed page that don't imply that. I actually think one of the ways is people who focus just on the after is quite effective, because you can put a beautiful picture of lips. You're not putting like a shrunk image of someone with their mouth half open with no makeup on next to it to imply that you created that difference with a needle, but you are still presenting beautiful work. So that might be one way.
Can I just give my perspective from a lay perspective, though? When I'm on Instagram, I want to see nice images and I want a story. And the story is from the before to the after. I want there to be a victory. I don't know, you guys make your own decision as medical professionals, but for me, when I look at them, I don't think, oh, what a shyster. I just think, yeah, nice lips. And I want to if it were to be, they are actually not the kind of lips that can be created, that's wrong. But I like a good before and after.
Well, that's the problem, is that most people don't realize how much of what they're seeing is due to the production of the photography rather than what the work done with the needle. And it's actually very hard, even for an expert, to know. And that means there's an element that's being presented as a thing you can have, which isn't actually true. And that's the problem I have. And actually what I do is I see it from the other side, which is many people, they want to know the techniques of the person, the injection techniques of the person who's presented an amazing before and after, which is hugely about the production of that photograph. And that creates a disconnect, because obviously you're trying to buy one thing, which is the technique, in the hope it'll give you something that's actually you're not going to get with the technique. You're going to have to work on your photography skills. So, I don't mind. I can be non-judgmental about how you play that, but you should know the process. Like, let's know the game. The game is create a beautiful image for Instagram, and you should do it in a way that's ethical if you're a healthcare practitioner, but know that that's one of your skill sets to master for 2021.
Do you have any insights about how we might master that skill?
Probably one of the most simple things you can do to improve is just use good light. Use it in both the before and the after. A good light makes a really big difference. I don't know how much of this is my brain, but I can tell when something's badly lit in one photo and well lit in the second picture. It's instantly a lighting thing. I think probably many people are just think it's the result. But in terms of taking a good picture of a nose or lips, a bright light on a young person with good skin creates a beautiful image in virtually everyone, regardless of before and after. Especially if you can see their eyes as well. I always like to try and get a catch light in the eye, so you get a little glint in the eye. It makes people more beautiful. You're highlighting the natural youth and beauty that they have, and then you have a before and after in those contexts. It just looks much better. But lighting is probably the one that's easiest to solve. Get one of those catch lights or round lights from Amazon. I think they're £20 to £40, and your pictures will instantly look better.
So do you have any other predictions for 2021?
Well, I think on the horizon, we have some negative stuff that's probably going to happen, which is we have basically a booming, unregulated market. Now, with everyone, there's a spectrum. Doesn't matter whether you talk about someone's height or their tendency to commit crime or their tendency to give to charity. There's a spectrum for everything. And where you have a lack of regulation like we do in the UK, it leaves room for a section at the bottom end to do some pretty awful stuff. And I think we're going to see some horrible complications, some really awful stuff, because I sense the scale is really going up. You know, there's a volume of unregulated injectors, and you know, it's not to say that they're all bad. Some of them might be amazing, way better than me, but there's a spectrum, isn't there? So on the far end of that, there's nothing to stop people who really shouldn't be injecting from injecting, because we have no regulation, and that's going to end up with some people getting some awful injuries. I know that there are cases of blindness in the UK that are still unreported. We're going to see more of that kind of thing, unfortunately. And if there's anything that comes out of it eventually, is that we need to notice it, talk about it more. It's very stressful talking about it, but it needs to be said. And we need to then have a discussion as a country, like what is the risk that we think the public should take when having injections? Do we need to put a system in place that protects the public, or is it fine for everyone to make their own decision and get what they get? And so I think there's going to be a lot more of that, and hopefully a couple of more big changes in terms of what the healthcare practitioners are doing within their governing bodies. So I'm hoping that there'll be a bit more regulation on whether you can prescribe commercially for people who have no medical training to inject drugs. Like I would hope that the GMC, GDC, those big bodies can start to have that discussion and lay out and decrease the risk for the public that some of their members are taking by letting other people take the risk with a prescription that they've made.
So prescribers prescribing for non-meds.
Yes.
Okay. You think you hope, or you think there might be some tightening up?
I think there's definitely movement to try and create something like that. Now, I know this from talking to the JCCP, that they're trying to... There are lots of little tiny areas that you can improve that kind of have this collective effect of changing how everything runs. So there's the big top down, like we're going to ban people who don't have whatever from injecting. And then there are lots of little things in between. I think there are going to be some of those shifts in the background that you can no longer operate with impunity and prescribe for everyone, you know, remote. Like they did it with remote prescribing as one example. They stopped remote prescribing. Well, it would be quite easy for them to do something similar for prescribing for commercially for unregulated people to inject their friends and family and colleagues, whoever else.
So are you optimistic or pessimistic for 2021 and the aesthetic businesses we have?
I'm inherently optimistic about the world generally. I think we're going to have some struggles, but people are, it's something I learned from being a GP actually. People will get over almost anything, and stuff that they think will absolutely crush them, they bounce back from in less time than you'd think. And that's not to diminish the scale of the difficulty for many people, but I believe that humans are very good at bouncing back. So I'm always optimistic.
Let us know in the comments whether you think 2021 will be a good or a bad year for aesthetics. And we wish you all the very best. A wonderful new year. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for watching us this year. We started this show in February, I think. And we've done many shows since. We've had so many new subscribers and we're super grateful to you guys. So thank you for your attention and for engaging with us.
Thanks for watching. All the best for 2021.